Italo Calvino, The Distance of the Moon. These exuberant, endlessly inventive stories interweave scientific fact with wordplay, whimsy, and cosmic flights of fantasy in a strange and wondrous universe for only £2. A Penguin Modern #2. And this is a book at Deb time. Italo Calvino, I haven't had much experience of. I read some of the science books, the titles of which escape me. But I want to talk about these, actually. These are an amazing series. I was brought onto these by D.D. Green in his Shop Jam bookshops, which I believe would still be something that you can do online. But given that books you can't see are still my priority. Uh, a great way just to see different perspectives, different genres, to try out different things. I think there's two elements here. One, and I include myself in this, often we don't challenge ourselves enough. Or we find the world so challenging, we want our reading, because it's supposed to be our leisure and pleasure, just to reaffirm the genre tropes that we know kind of what's going to happen. We just wonder how it's going to happen. It's difficult to get that right balance. I mean, this is a recording from a man who watches the first 20 minutes of John Carpenter's The Fog before he goes to sleep pretty much 4 times a week. Um, it's not a dull film. We've established that, but I just need that mindful reassurance. It's not a Commodore 64. The point is, this is a really affordable way to try out other things and to see those perspectives, and maybe get some growth in terms of going on to buying the other books as well. And I will stress that this is £2. £2. £2. This got me through about 4 days worth of commutes back and forth. Now, admittedly, you can get a magazine that could be arguably a bit meatier than that, but one, it's a lot of pictures, and two, it just doesn't make you look as sophisticated or as interesting. Um, because I'm affectatious like that. It's a video. I think we've already established this. And also at £2 compared to about £6 for, say, a copy of White Dwarf. I think the last time I've seen magazines which are seriously in decline, I went into WH Smith's in an airport and looking at the aspirational mid to upper mid magazines, and we're talking about £12 bookazines in this time of s- happy twatters. It's very hard to rationalize those, whereas these books are going to be evergreen or until they're recycled, in which case they're evergreen. Anyway, this one itself, Italo Calvino's, it's a great little set of stories. It's magical realism is the easiest way to say this. I know no one really wants to hang out with Neil in the Dream King, but we are talking about a permeable, primordial time where reality isn't sacrosanct. So we are living in a conceptual sort of level. These interconnected stories, each of which, let's see, the longest one I think is indeed The Distance to the Moon at 22 pages. The whole collection is about 60 pages. Implosion is 5. Without Colors about 12. As Long as the Sun Lasts, which I found the most awkward one to read, um, is barely 12. It takes the facts of what we know of the universe and brings them back to the times even before we thought that the Earth was the center of the universe and the Sun was the center of the universe orbit, for example, and just also intertwines them with these beings who ostensibly we're just watching regular families argue, but you're also having this anthropomorphized godhoods here. The first one is fine because you're talking about the idea that the moon is of the Earth and has broken off and is a chunk and is built out of gravity. That gravitational science makes sense. The idea that the moon is a sort of a cream cheese and people could scrape it with chips and playing with the gravity to almost hop from one to the other. This concept of ether, that was very popular in Victorian times. But ultimately, it is about a captain, his wife, and the first mate who fancies the wife. Also, Fourth character being, the triangle. She loves another shipmate. The shipmate is attuned to the moon. He loves the moon. She loves him. Our narrator loves her, and the captain is sick of the bloody lot of them. It's a classic story. It's a very old-fashioned romance story of lust being identified as love, frankly, and the objectification and the stuff we try and impose on the others in our lives as the projection, much like the moon is a projection or a reflection of the earth in some way. And it's fun. It's fun, and I'm literally going to pull this out at random because the key part of this is the language in it. The reason it took me so long to read is it's not that the language is confusing; it's just the concepts are harder to get into. But it's a fascinating and lyrical way. In reality, from the top of the ladder, standing erect on the last rung, you could just touch the moon if you held your arms up. We had taken the measurements carefully. We didn't yet suspect that she was moving away from us. The only thing you had to be very careful about was where you put your hands. I always chose a scale that seemed fast. Goes on. Let's have a look at some other parts here. That would be the first story. Without colors is the concept of color actually permeating the world. A world without color. Now, my brother is colorblind. Um, I often have difficulties in remembering that when talking to him. I've shown him two ties and he goes, I don't know. And I go, it takes me a moment because for us, it's not really part of life. He's a grown man, but the idea of an entire world having no concept at all, at all, not just red green, like of any palette, any texture that color brings, or more importantly, I suppose, reveals, um, is fascinating to me because color allows shade, and shade allows depth, and depth allows dimension. We have that again here. He's in a relationship. Before forming its atmosphere and its oceans, the Earth was resembling a grey ball revolving in space, as the moon does now. Where the ultraviolet rays radiated by the sun arrive directly, all colors are destroyed, which is why the cliffs of the lunar surface, instead of being colored like Earth's, are of a dead uniform grey. If the Earth displays a varicolored countenance, it is thanks to the atmosphere which filters that wondrous light. So the idea that color is actually an imposition kind of reminds me of They Live. At the same time, the fact that this can be embraced and enjoyed, whereas here he loves her, she shits her pants at systemic change in her lifestyle. Also, how she would be perceived, AL's eyes. He lies to her. He tells her that, color was just a passing phase. It ends as I'm sure you can imagine. But again, it is heartfelt reaction to reality change. As long as the sun lasts, that's the most comedic. It's a family that seems to perpetually backpack around different interstellars. Something almost out of a 2000 AD. A retired man who just wants to find a nice yellow sun and settle down. Whereas a wife who's constantly aspirational, looking for the white dwarf that could grow into many, many years ahead. It's really quite well done. It's right. It's definitely warm, all of them. And Implosion, I think, helped tie it all together. The idea that our idea of the Big Bang is purely an expression of ourselves, how we think that everything we do has to be an outward growth. An implosion could, in fact, be an inward depth where you're understanding introspection and how that can leave a shadow for those who come after. It's a fascinating play on science and lyricism. It's a few stops and it's tunes. £2 to play with concepts and the language in a completely different way to make what you've seen before. It's not about exposition. It is all show, not tell. It's cinematic in its own construct. I would say that this book is a fantastic read, and you should definitely pick it up. Did I mention it's £2 and there's a cost of living crisis? My God, your coffee costs more than this. And with that, consume and obey.